And we have a chick. Today's feature deck for Duel Masters Plays revolves around Java Jack Ultra Flash. This mono water aggro deck is one of the best decks in New Division at the moment. It's currently my favorite deck because of how easy it is to play and how easy it is to climb with this deck. I actually use this list to get from Plat 4 or 5 to Master Rank, which is something we haven't done in a really long time. And it also happens to be really easy to build because it only has 4 super rares, and contrary to what the extra deck shows, it actually doesn't need hyperspatial creatures. Jumping into the key cards, we have the big boy, Java Jack Ultra Flash. He is a Liquid People Evolution 4 mana 6000 double breaker. When he enters, draw 4 cards, then put 2 cards at the bottom of your deck. And if you have 2 more other Liquid People, your opponent can't choose him, so he gets a Juliana style effect, which is really nice. Of course, to support Java Jack, probably just as important as him, if not more so, is Aqua Elite. 4 mana 1000 basic Liquid People. When he enters the battle zone, draw a card, then you get to evolve him for free, basically. It does say here that the Liquid People evolution must cost 5 or less, but all of the ones that we're running in this deck cost 5 or less, so that's really nice. Now, speaking of evolutions, one of them is Vilvisvid Ultra Flash. Now try saying that 10 times fast. His effect is, it's just a simple bounce effect, but given his decent stats, and how certain psychic creatures or other various creatures in the format can be problematic, it is certainly a welcome effect. The last evolution we're running is Crystal Super Paladin. When he enters, we can bounce one of our opponent's psychic creatures, and then when it attacks, it gets a Crystal Paladin style effect. Bounces all the blockers, hence the name. And he's also double breaker, unlike the original Crystal Paladin. The last card I want to talk about is Aqua Evolutor, 2 mana 1k, just a weenie, but he makes our evolution creatures cost 1 less to summon, and that actually goes a really long way because, as we will cover in the video, I was actually able to Aqua Evolutor on 2 into Java Jack on 3 quite a few times, and that was pretty crazy. Right, so I'm going to be sharing some more comments about the deck and my general thoughts later into the video, but for now, let's just jump into the games. So again, I recorded the entirety of my run from Plat 4 or 5 to Master. I was able to do this in about an hour and a half, I want to say. The conservative estimate is under 2 hours. You know, one thing you gotta love about these sorts of aggro decks is that they're real easy to climb with, games go by so quickly, and it's just a really efficient experience. Right, so starting off, let's have a look-see here. Aqua Surfer, I bet you guys haven't seen him in a while. You know, Andrew and I used to consider like Aqua Surfer, Holio, and Terrapit as air quotes evergreen cards because despite coming out all the way back in base set, they would always, find their ways into people's decks. But I think in this current era, with DNA Spark, with, I guess, Aqua Burster, with, what's the other thing? Hell's Gate? Deathgate? Those evergreen cards have been power crept. So the card I just played here is Java Kid Aqua Boy. He reveals the top card of our deck, and if it's a Liquid People, we get to put it in our hand. This deck is like 90% Liquid People, so he's basically a 2 mana Aqua Hulkus. Now here comes Aqua Elite, very important card for the deck. We were able to summon the Java Jack for free, draw a bunch of cards, and we still have the free body from Java Kid. So our opponent's going to lose a lot of shields this turn. Here we go. Yeah, so one thing that I noticed in the current format is a lot of the decks are, well, they try to be a little sophisticated. They usually spend the early turns playing a lot of Fairy Life, and that is something these rush or aggro decks really eat up. Now, my opponent's psychic creature stops this Java Jack from attacking, but that's not really a problem. Aqua Guard evolves into Java Jack with 5 mana. You know, Aqua Guard, a very classic TCG era card, still coming in clutch for some of these modern strategies. Just the mana efficiency is so good. And one thing I really like about these decks, and actually, I say these decks because this deck reminds me of the Crystal Zweilancer deck from all the, like, year 1 or 2 of DMP, and it also reminds me of the Great Mecha King deck, even though that was dual civ between light and water. But I kind of lump them all together in that they are these really strong yet simple decks with an aggressive focus, and they just put all of their eggs into plan A, which is to break all their opponent's shields. And they're pretty easy to build, at least maybe not the great mechas, but this deck is, and the Zweilancer deck was, and they seem to be good for several formats. So if you're a new player, or if you're an existing player looking to be competitive but not put too much time or money into DMP, I would definitely give this deck a look, based on, you know, similar decks of past formats like Zweilancer and the Great Mecha Kings. So yeah, I guess it's always, well, at least in many situations, it's better to whole-ass one thing than to half-ass two things. Alright, so we are about to punish our opponent super hard. Usually summoning Mei on turn 1, like, it's hard to punish a Mei summon on turn 1. But because we opened with Aqua Evolutor here, our opponent might, you know, try to evolve the Mei into the sleeping one, get the Fairy Life effect, but unfortunately for him, we've got Java Jack, so we're gonna attack over that, and the effect's not gonna activate for our opponent, he doesn't get the free mana, and he basically wasted his turn. I think many decks are actually not prepared to deal with a turn 1 Mei, but this deck, even though it does require a little bit of luck, seems to be prepared for that, so that's really nice. Alright, so here I'm going to double Java Kid Aqua Boy. Imagine that, playing Aqua Hulkus for 2 mana. That stuff is crazy. These dudes replace themselves, and I am just in a very strong position at the moment. So as you can see from the hexagons, or at least briefly with the hexagons, Java Jack has untargetable because I have 2 other creatures on the field. That is actually pretty important, I think. When I was recording games, my opponents were pretty good at removing creatures, or rather, I wasn't really able to get boards that went beyond 3 creatures that often, so I guess it doesn't kick in too much, but it's definitely a great effect. I like it a lot. On this turn, looks like I decide to just deploy more bodies onto the field, in case my opponent has Ryusei, as we will soon see. Aqua Guards are there to block. Ryusei is a pretty interesting card because it does have the ability to brick many aggro decks such as this one, but we gotta consider that, well, one, Ryusei takes up the entire turn for the opponent, and also Aqua Guard is really good in this matchup. So he's gonna try to attack Java Jack, but Aqua Guard just sacrifices himself. Now what I do here is I just bounce the Ryusei. The Aqua Surfer body works really well, and I'm going to go for face. So now if my opponent wants to, well, basically my opponent is stuck, right? There's no way he can deal with, well, I guess he can deal with 2 attackers, but there's no way he can deal with, actually no, I don't know what I'm saying. There's nothing my opponent can do here, I don't think. Ryusei attacks over one thing, but, oh, okay. I guess all of the games are blending into one, so he uses the fire effect of Hyper Ryu Spatial Hole, and that alien-looking thing stops my guy from attacking. Wow, he even gets a blocker out, which is a really strong turn for him, I have to say. But unfortunately, I already have game. I could have done Aqua Guard into Vilvisvid, or, you know, here we go, Aqua Elite does the same thing. And bounce the blocker, and my opponent is just not having any of it. Yeah, if you pause the video, you know, these are replays, so they're going a lot quicker than real-time games, but if you pause the video to take a look at the replay screen, you'll see how quickly these games finish. You know, it's usually, like, well, some are like 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 7 minutes. It's really nice. Andrew and I used to talk about this a lot, how rush decks are great for climbing because, you know, let's say it has a 60% win rate like other tier 1 decks or something like that. you get to squeeze more games in. So even if the win rate is the same, you get to play more games, and that makes the climb a lot quicker. Alright, so running into some powerful opponents. Our opponent is on a 4-game win streak, but unfortunately for them, we are going to be building a 4-game win streak of our own. Alright, so our opponent plays some weird card. I am opting not to play the Aqua Guard on turn 1. I just don't see the point. I think Aqua Guard on turn 1 should be reserved for a specific set of scenarios. It's not something you always have to do because you're going to be down a card. Though, in saying that, board wipes aren't too prevalent at the moment. They haven't been for a while. And deploying more Aqua Guard bodies gives you more... Well, it lets Java Jack's untargetable effect trigger more quickly. So, maybe I'm wrong about that. Anyway, what I've done is I'm evolving Aqua Evolutor into Java Jack. This is just a really strong start for me, and going for face. I'm not too sure what my opponent's playing. I'm guessing it's some variation of a Wedding Gate deck, perhaps, or a Heaven's Gate deck. I'm not too sure, but I'm also not too worried because I think this deck has a pretty strong matchup against those sorts of decks. I mean, breaking into a gate can be pretty scary, but with all the unconditional spot removal, you know. So what a great top deck. Found my Aqua Elite and summoning Java Jack number 2. And also, everything here is in Japanese. I'm sorry for that. I went on this run on my phone. And with DMP, even though Andrew and I share an account, all the replays are saved to the device the thing is played on rather than the account. So I summoned 2 Java Jacks here. I acknowledge that I probably would have been able to Crystal Paladin. That would have been really strong as well. But I think I'm just saving it in case my opponent pulls out something really scary. Now, I make a mistake here. I failed to realize that the effect of his creature of the minus 1000 power is a continuous effect. So I just waste my summon. And, well, thankfully, my opponent isn't able to do much to respond. But that could have gotten really scary, I think, because all of my Evo bait, well, I guess not all of them, you know, some of them are 2000 power like Aqua Burster or Aqua Surfer, but it would have been pretty inconvenient. But anyway, my opponent runs out of juice, not a whole lot that can be done. And we are moving on to the next game. Also, I wasn't too sure what would be better. I had a feeling that commentary on these games would be better, especially for the English viewers, which make up the bulk of our audience. But let me know if in the future you'd be okay with, you know, just watching non-commentated videos of these long or short runs that we want to share. Because, yeah, I'd be curious to know. Alright. I don't know, is this game number 4? I'm not 100% sure. Let's have a look. Yeah, so it looks like it's game number 4, and we are looking to climb out of Platinum 3. Well, I say we in the sense that Andrew and I share the account, but I always say we when I'm looking at Duel Masters Plays because I always think Andrew is with me, even though I went on this run by myself and I'm recording this by myself. Alright, so our opponent is playing some crazy multi-civ stuff. Good for them. I'm opting to Ava Evolutor here. I guess on the off chance I top deck Java Jack, that puts me off to a very strong start. Let's see what I draw here. Nope, no Java Jack, but I am able to play... so no Aqua Hocus on curve, but the dude I played just now is called Fuma Gorgonshak. Andrew and I love that name. What he does is he makes spells cost 2 more to cast. So this is really strong against Fairy Life decks, or at least it's strong against Fairy Life decks if you play him on 3 going first. He isn't really doing a whole lot here because my opponent got to ramp quite a bit before he hit the board, unfortunately. Now, here we go, Aqua Hocus makes an appearance. Andrew and I really wanted to put him in the deck. When we were theory crafting, he made a lot of sense. But in practice, he actually isn't really that useful. You know, more often than not, we don't play him on turn 3, and he goes into mana. Though I suppose you could say such is true for all the 3-drops in the deck, you know. If they come out on 3, they're generally pretty good. but they can't come out earlier, and they can't really come out later either. Because later, they just go into mana, they don't do enough. Here, I am opting to play Vilvisvid because I want to go for the early double break. And looks like the calculated risk pays off. We're able to finish the opponent. Yes, very nice. Again, I said it at the start of the video, but if you're wanting to get into DMP or go on a really mean climb, I definitely recommend this deck. Very easy to use. That's part of the reason why I was able to play this on mobile, because I just have to remember what the cards do. I don't have to be too worried about specific card interactions or what my opponent is doing, because the game plan of this deck is to just keep swinging for face, remove problem creatures, draw cards, swing for face. You love to see it. Okay, next opponent. Yeah, alright. Our opponent here is not playing an extra deck, I don't think, so that is concerning. And, so, this is funny. One of the biggest struggle that I had when playing this deck was actually the mirror match. The mirror match is, I guess like many mirror matches, it's pretty stupid, and it was also my hardest matchup. Now here, I make a mistake. Instead of playing Aqua Evolutor to give my evolutions discounts, I opt to play Java Kid Aqua Boy. I think I should have played Aqua Evolutor to give myself the out to turn 3 Java Jack, or turn 4 Java Jack. No, I guess turn 3 Java Jack, because if my opponent Java Jacks, I'm kind of screwed. Thankfully, my opponent breaks into Aqua Surfer, and as you know, breaking into Aqua Surfer is disastrous for Rush. And well, the tide, no pun intended, is about to turn, just because my opponent broke into Aqua Surfer. Though, in saying that, I want to say I deserve to have that trig, because unlike the Kami game list, we are opting to play Aqua Burster, so we play more shield triggers than other versions of this deck. And I think Aqua Burster would have been okay in that situation as well. My opponent Java Jacks first, but this is not too bad for me because I can pretty easily out it. My opponent tries to clear my board, but this is just not good for him. So I'm gonna play the Vilvisvid for free. I'm just gonna give him his Java Jack, because if he wants to play it again, that's essentially his entire turn, and I'm gonna keep swinging for face. Decks like these don't play too many shield triggers, and so yeah, pretty good. All thanks to Aqua Surfer. Now sometimes I feel like DNA Spark might be a pretty good inclusion for this deck, just so there's always a chance. You know how Andrew and I love putting DNA, or how we loved putting Holy onto everything in the past pretty much, but I don't think it's gonna be good here because it messes with the Java Kid feng shui, and it's also not really needed, I don't think. For decks like this, very linear rush decks or aggro decks, it's probably better to focus more on the plan A rather than plan for contingencies. When you play more sophisticated decks, like I guess beatdown, mid-range control style decks that kick into gear later into the game, I think the contingencies become more important. But with super aggressive decks like this, most of the time your opponent is just reacting to you, so they don't have time to put pressure on you, in which case contingencies like Spark and Shields aren't really necessary. Very unfortunate start for us. We don't open with any 1 or 2 drops, but I guess we have some 3 drops, so maybe Fumagorgon Shack is going to have a chance to hit the board. I don't exactly remember what happens in all of these games. I played a lot that afternoon. Right, so I do play Fumagorgon Shack. My opponent is playing a Fairy Life style deck. Opponent plays the Rabbit, so it doesn't play the 1-drop version, just plays the 4-drop version straight up, thanks to Fairy Life. We're not too bothered by this. I have Aqua Elite, and I'm able to bounce his creature. I was actually pretty worried before my opponent played the rabbit because I wasn't sure what to do. I didn't want to play Vilvisvid without bouncing anything, but then getting an early double breaker on the board would have still been pretty good. So it worked out really well that my opponent played the rabbit. Rabbit is making an appearance again, but our opponent is only on 5 mana. We can actually attack over the rabbit, so I want to say it's too little too late for our opponent. Unfortunately for them, fortunately for us. Right, so I'm not too threatened. I guess I wasn't too threatened by what our opponent would be able to do with 7 mana. Swing for face, took a risk, opponent had no trigs, and that's game. Yeah. So, in case you can't tell, this deck is a lot of fun to play. I guess if you don't have a brick start, which I guess is the case with every deck, like whenever you have a brick start with any deck, it's always a bad time, but so for as long as we don't brick, and this deck is pretty consistent, this deck is just a lot of fun to play. You're doing actions every turn. Of course, it can get awkward when you're having to fight your opponent with 1k, 2k creatures if you whiff your evolutions. But unlike other water beatdown decks of old, we run a lot of evolutions, and Aqua Elite just boosts the consistency by a heck of a lot. If you think back to, well, if you played in the Zweilancer days, if you whiffed Zweilancer, you're basically fighting your opponent with 1,000, 2,000 power creatures. With this, I think it's less of a problem. There's some nice draw and a crap ton of great evolutions to play. Even though they're not very strong, they all have unconditional spot removal, and that goes a long way. In this situation, I opt to play Aqua Guard. At that time, he seemed like the best chance for a, well, Java Jack Evo target. Playing another one, I guess because I want to trigger the ability sooner, the untargetable ability. So our opponent plays the rabbit, but we are not too bothered by this. Here we go, Java Jack here to attack over the rabbit. Java Jack does not care. It's funny because when the set first came out, Andrew and I were saying how the rabbit, because of how flexible it is, you can use it as an engine for the Dreammate deck, you can use it as the engine for any deck that likes to ramp. Maybe that would get an errata or a Hall of Fame or some sort of regulation. But maybe Java Jack is who the DM Play devs need to look out for. Opponent tries to stop our momentum by preventing our Java Jack from attacking. Doesn't matter, here comes Aqua Elite, here comes Java Jack number 2, and we're just gonna keep swinging for shields. It's great. Yeah, I keep the Aqua Burster here just in case my opponent plays some crazy psychic creatures, and then Aqua Burster can just out them pretty easily. And I also get the free Aqua Guard summon, which is nice. Opponent opts to grab Ryusei. I think that's probably correct. I don't know what else my opponent could choose from. Ryusei makes this matchup a little tricky, but my opponent is obviously very many turns away from playing Ryusei, so this is fine. Not too worried. Ah, right, there we go. The opponent plays Fairy Life. He can Ryusei next turn. Now, in accordance with playing this matchup properly, I'm spamming Aqua Guards, and I'm just going to go in with Java Jack. So when faced against Ryusei, we just have to summon Aqua Guards to protect the Java Jack and keep swinging for face. And then on our turns, well, basically on our opponent's turn, they will try to attack us with Ryusei, and then we sacrifice the Aqua Guard, so Java Jack keep breaking. And on our turns, in order to respond to the Ryusei, we just have to bounce it. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty good when you consider Ryusei takes up the opponent's entire turn. So if we're just going to waste his time like blocking its attacks and bouncing it and sticking more bodies on the field, it really works out in our favor. Now, hypothetically here I was going to say I could have gone for game, but that's not true since my creatures go into the battle zone tapped. So I'm going to keep wasting my opponent's time by forcing him to play Ryusei over and over again and sticking more bodies. Playing the Aqua Burster first was important to make sure the Aqua Evolutor went into the battle zone untapped. So how's my opponent going to deal with this? One tapped strong attacker who is being protected by a blocker, and one untapped weenie who can attack. Alright, so here we go. The opponent actually uses... Actually, no. I thought my opponent was going to use the fire effect of Hyperspatial Ryusei Hole, but looks like he took the mana so he could play a second one. Now he uses the fire effect. Attacks over the Aqua Guard, but unfortunately for him, we've got... Oh no, we don't have game yet, because Java Jack can no longer attack. But it's alright. I've got game here. So I'm able to Aqua Burster no effect into Java Jack. Got a fresh Java Jack and can swing for face. I was actually worried about the execution error here. My opponent didn't just give up because my opponent had a tapped creature. I might have theoretically attacked into it by accident. Thankfully I did not. That would have been very embarrassing. Yeah. Moving on to the next game. Yeah, if you have a look at my rank, I haven't played any games in Master since I got to Master. But I think the reason I'm really low is because it's fairly late into the season, so everyone got into Master ahead of us, but we're on 1,500 points. Alright, so we're on a nice 7-game win streak. I can't remember the last time I went on a really long win streak, to be honest with you. Of course, the time that Andrew and I did the wheel, the very first time, that sticks out. And then I think there was a special event that I played with the Romanov B deck, the Dark Nature Romanov B deck, and man, that's a throwback. But I think since those are the only times I can remember. Well, I guess there would be this, so that's nice. What about you guys? Have you guys gone... What is the longest win streak you guys have gone on in DMP? Let me know in the comments. I'd be curious to find out. Alright, so got the magic start here. Got the Aqua Evolutor into turn 3 Java Jack. This is like playing Jasper into Queen Maiden on turn 3 in the context of TCG Extended. This is, of course, a lot stronger. But that's what it reminds me of. Don Vacuuming now is a little inconvenient for us because we lose Java Jack. Our next turn could have been a lot stronger, but this deck is actually not too bothered by it because with Aqua Evolutor, no, not Aqua Evolutor, but well, actually I guess Aqua Evolutor, but I was more thinking with Aqua Elite, we can just play the Java Jack again. It's great. You know, for how good this deck is, I actually didn't run to it, or we haven't run into it very often when playing ranked. It's really interesting. You'd think more people would be playing this, but maybe it's a little too boring for the tastes of most players on DMP. I don't know. So our opponent is using Soul Swap as a defensive shield trigger. The TCG classic. Aqua Surfer to bounce the Bronze Arm. Not quite sure if that's correct. I don't think it makes too big of a difference since our opponent would be 2 turns away from Ryusei anyway. Alright, our opponent deploys the Psychic Creature who can attack over Aqua Surfer, so goodbye Aqua Surfer. Goodbye. This isn't too bad though because we have another Aqua Elite. We also have Aqua Evolutor, so if we wanted to pay the... summon, like, off Aqua Evolutor, we could have done that. Don't know why I said that. It would have been a bad play, even though it's technically true. So here we go, Vilvasvid coming in handy, just getting rid of our opponent's Psychic Creature, just in case, and putting on the pressure. Here comes Soul Swap, our opponent is playing Ryusei, but too little too late, our opponent could not out the Aqua Evolutor. I think if he had another Hyperspatial Ryusei Hole and he went for the ramp to destroy... Oh, no, I guess he wouldn't have been able... Well, I guess if he went for the ramp and attacked our weenie, and then, you know, used Soul Swap for Ryusei to attack our tapped creature, and we would have been in trouble, because with Ryusei out, everything goes in tapped. But I guess our opponent did have it. Lucky us. Lucky me. We got the W. On to the next game. It's actually pretty hard to commentate the replays, because the replays happen so much faster than the live games. There's no there's no wasted motion when people just take ages thinking about what their next move is gonna be. Anyway, our opponent here is in Legend, or I mean in Master, I should say. He's in the Shadow Realm, and I'm actually really upset by this because I was so close to getting into to Master rank. And while our opponent wasn't on a win streak, our opponent gains nothing from beating us here, but our opponent chose to play. And before I jumped into the game, you'll see that this is a game that I lost. I do make the correct play. I play Aqua Guard on turn 1 when I recognize it's a mirror match. I think it's important to play Aqua Guard to somewhat police the field and just get more bodies out for Java Jack. I do get Java Jack off this Java kit, but I believe that is incorrect because I should have played Aqua Evolutor on turn 2 in case my opponent had Java Jack turn 3, which he obviously did. So that's a mistake on my part. I think that mistake alone cost me the game because I'm basically bricked for this next turn since, you know, there's nothing meaningful I could do with 3 mana. 3 mana is one of the worst curves for this deck if you can't Java Jack. Aqua Evolutor comes out too late. Getting a second Aqua Guard would have been great, but that clearly did not happen. And now my opponent is just going to build a whole lot of momentum. So grabs another Java Jack. That's what I wanted to do. You know, played a bunch of weenies, including Aqua Guard. So we're kind of in trouble. Now what I'm opting to do here is I'm going to fight his Java Jack with my Java Jack. Vilvesvid might have been okay, but oh no, I wouldn't have had enough to play it, and he had 2 Aqua Guards, so the one Aqua Guard would have blocked the Vilvesvid anyway, so that would have been pointless. My opponent is in a very strong position. Now he's playing his Vilvesvid to get rid of my creatures, and he crashes his Vilvesvid into my Java Jack. That is correct, since it removes all the threats from my board. And now I'm on 0 shield. No lucky Aqua Surfers this time around. In this situation, I have a lot of cards, but not a lot of mana and not a lot of options. I think I am able to answer his Java Jack, but I don't think I can answer both of his creatures. Now I do something very weird here. I crash my Java Jack into his, which is fine, and I leave the Java Kid and put it on my opponent to out it. I give up here. I'm not quite sure why. I think I probably realized my opponent had game. Like he charged Aqua Surfer, so yeah. To be honest, I don't know why he did that because he could have just charged something and then just played Aqua Surfer to bounce my Aqua Guard. But I guess I didn't see that there was a way out for me since my opponent had way too many shields and well, he drew a bunch of cards. No way I could have survived that. So yeah, I just had enough. That was very sad. It set me back in my quest. I think I had to win like 2 or 3 more games at that point, but instead I had to play a couple more. I was actually at a family dinner just playing Duel Masters Plays. It was too important. I was on a hot streak, and I also wanted to pleasantly surprise Andrew with this run. Anyway, no use crying over spilled milk. Moving on. I've been noticing this playmat with the waifu and the Kokolupia plushie. It seems to be pretty popular. I've been coming across it quite a lot. Andrew and I are, of course, doing the bare minimum, no mat, no sleeves. When I see the Gaga Alcadias hit mana, I'm really relieved. I start to think I have the match in the bag as early as this, because those decks often play water, which means they don't have ramp. And with decks without ramp, honestly, have no hope of fighting off decks that are this fast. In my opinion, anyway. Now, the Java Jack was admittedly a very lucky top deck, but, you know, playing Aqua Hookers on 3 is also not too bad, I think. Anyway, that was a big momentum swing, so here we go. Java Jack, swinging for face. Our opponent will be hard-pressed to respond to this. Now, this creature is really interesting. The opponent destroys one of their shields to draw 2 cards. I think that would be a really cool effect for the TCG. I'm not quite sure how you'd balance that. It might be a bit on the strong side, I don't know, but I think it would be cool to give to creatures in the TCG so that Darkness wouldn't have to rely on, playing water and or light for a sort of engine. Anyway, play Java Jack number 2. Aqua Elite is just so good. My opponent has a shield trigger. It is not DNA Spark. I noticed a lot of players are opting to play that multicolored Spark instead of DNA Spark. I don't really agree with it. I can see why. Maybe the devs at, the staff at Kami Game got too fed up with DNA Spark being the first shield broken and not getting anything off it. But I think DNA Spark is generally better. Anyway, Aqua Burster, removing the blocker, and I'm swinging for face. I think I could have also played Super Crystal Paladin, but at the time I was thinking that because my opponent's playing a Gates deck, I wanted to have the option to out multiple blockers in a turn. So that's why I did that. Yeah, I usually like to save the Crystal Paladin. Don't know if that's correct or not, but that's just me. Anyway, it doesn't matter too much. I'm choosing to play the Crystal Paladin now, and watch this cool effect. Oh, the double blocker bounce, very nice, and Tadomida. You can tell I was taking this run very seriously, because I was not doing the triple evolution meme that Andrew and I used to love doing in high school. I think there were a couple of occasions where the triple evolution would have made sense, it would have been an appropriate out, and it could have won me the game, but no, I just opted to waste a little more time by deploying more bodies. just in case, mentally, I wanted to make sure I was doing the most optimal thing. Don't worry guys, I know it's been a long video, but I wanted to show how quickly games could go in playing this. I honestly can't recommend it enough. Right, so here we go. Again, the playmat I was commenting on. Anyway, this is a bit of a spoiler, and this might cause a couple people to click off the video sooner. But this is actually the last real game that I play. The other one I run into a good Samaritan who just gives it to me. But anyway, this is really funny. Usually people think that the Mage attacks for free, but actually no, it has to attack and then it goes tapped. But Aqua Guard can block it. Aqua Guard polices the field against May. Our opponent probably didn't realize that. They probably thought that it just turned tapped when you attack, like no attack would go through. I don't know how that would work, but anyway, big misplay on their part, I want to say. And now we are just going to run amok. We got an amazing start. We were able to evolve onto the Aqua Guard. He has served his purpose. And here comes Jack. I don't know why I attacked first with the weenie. Maybe a smaller chance of breaking into his shield trigger if you break one shield versus two. I hit a bunch of trigs anyway, but it doesn't matter too much. My opponent isn't able to do much to respond to this, and very unlucky for my opponent. There is no fire mana for Hyperspatial Ryusei Hole, or a Ryusei for that matter. I think Ryusei on the next turn could be very useful for him, but yeah, too bad. Bouncing Java Jack, not much of a problem at all. We're just gonna summon we're just gonna summon him again because Aqua Evolutor gives the discounts. Are there any trigs? This is the moment. Alright, not the moment of truth yet. Now it's the moment of truth. Double break. And yep, so opponent has a trig to save thy skin. But I've got a big attacker. My opponent's on 8 mana. Even if he did have Ryusei, I would be able to block it with Aqua Guard. So I think he's gonna. And yeah, it doesn't even have any fire mana for Hyperspatial Ryusei Hole to play the psychic creature that stops my guy from attacking. Not that it matters, I have evolutions. But yeah, so many options, so many cards from all the draw from Jack. So super long video, but if you stuck with me to the end, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope I was able to convince you of the power and efficiency of Java Jack, who will hopefully be amazing for future formats to come. As usual, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time.